Hi, Dr. Mark here at Natural Health. Hope you're having a great day. We're really excited as we start the new year, 2020. We have some really good topics we're going to bring to you, some special topics that you may or not even heard about before. So it should be pretty interesting. And our first one tonight is a really high energy presentation. And the joke there is it's about energy. So tonight we're going to talk about sugar versus fat and the energy from there. Now, why is that important? Well, our bodies are mostly energy, and that's kind of a strange thought for a lot of people, because the medical model looks at human beings as being a kind of a mechanistic, like a machine, and that they only look at the parts of the machine and try to, to treat the parts. And so what we're finding in the new model of quantum physics, that we're mostly energy. And the real simple way of looking at this is, if you have a water pond or puddle, whatever, it's nice and calm, you drop a pebble into it and you see the energy flow out from that. Because it's hard for us to see energy. I mean, if you see lightning, that's energy. Our bodies run on energy. We move by energy, we think with energy. Everything is part of energy, and it has to do with how our mitochondria produce ATP. That's getting into biochemistry. But anyway, the body's ability to produce energy. People that are tired all the time cannot produce energy. So it's really important to know the differences of how we produce energy. And there's a lot of information out there now, and then a lot of false stuff. And we're going to talk about myths and truths later. But a lot of things out there that have been kind of taught to us for years, but are not true. And we're going to talk about those quickly tonight. This subject could take like hours and hours to go over. I'm going to try to keep it short and just give you kind of a quick overview of what's going on. So tonight we're going to talk basically about metabolic energy and what the body does when it takes in sugars and fats and uses that for energy. Now, there's really three sources for energy: sugar and fats, and then proteins. The body can use proteins for energy, but most of the time proteins are used to build the body for muscle mass and for all the other mechanisms of the body, all the other, your digestive system and all kind of things. You replace your hair, all that stuff. That's got to do more with the protein. The body doesn't really like to use protein for energy. It would rather use sugar or fats. Now, the basic medical paradigm is that we shouldn't eat fats because of the cholesterol thing, which is a bunch of bunk, and then that sugar's fine. I mean, sugar is a sugar. So if you have sugar from fruit, you have sugar from cereal, you have sugar from a candy cane, it's all the same sugar, and it should be fine. Well, that's wrong too. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that's really a lot of the new science coming out from seeing the problems with using this worn out cholesterol, saturated fat thing that's been going on for 50 years, and how heart disease has increased, cancer has increased, diabetes has increased, all that kind of stuff. So we're seeing that is the wrong model. Now, a great place to go to get more information about this is go to Ivor Cummins, I-V-O-R Cummins, C-U-M-M-I-N-S. He is an engineer, has his own YouTube channel. And it's interesting is he comes from an engineering point of view to discuss how sugar works. And you have to do that from out of the medical realm is still stuck in the Ansel Keys cholesterol, saturated fat thing. They just don't want to leave that. Everything's kind of hooked into that. The statin drug companies are all hooked into that. Everything's hooked into that. So if you want to get the true information of the body works, you have to go out of the medical paradigm. Ivor Cummins is an engineer from a different background. Great place to learn. He has his own YouTube channel. You can get a lot of information from him. I'm not going to go into the biochemistry like he does tonight, but he's going into the basic pathways as to how sugars and fats are burned. So we have a couple handouts we're going to put up, and the first one is just a basic food intake handout, and it looks like this. So hopefully you can you'll see that eventually. You can get the handouts. They'll be in the comment section. and you can look through those. But the first one goes over the use of proteins, complex carbohydrates, and fats, triglycerides, which when I looked this up today, trying to find a good diagram or chart to use, none of them are really good. There's a lot of problems with them. So like in this one, they're using complex carbohydrates. Well, if you're eating a SAD diet, the standard American diet, you're not getting a lot of complex carbohydrates. You're getting simple sugars. So that kind of throws this thing off too. And then it talks about here triglycerides being broken down from fats and proteins, and it goes into, fat storage. And then some of it goes into energy energy production, but it kind of has this going over to the fat storage. And it has the complex carbohydrates, they go straight down here, and that's all energy production. Maybe it goes into the liver a little bit. And then the proteins, they get in there, and they only used in case if you're in starvation mode. Well, if you're looking at this, you think, oh my gosh, what should I eat? Well, you don't want to eat fats, they're going to make fats, and you want to eat proteins, that's only in starvation mode. You're going to want to eat carbohydrates, and this is totally wrong. We have the next one we have, let's show you this quickly. This is a more up-to-date, more information that's really more true, and it's looking at sugars, starches, and fruit causing a body to be fat. Now, the way the body uses this for energy, the body can use your simple sugars very quickly. And it will absorb simple sugars, processed sugar, candies, cookies, cakes. We just went through Christmas and New Year's and all the junk that goes along with that. It will absorb that kind of sugar very quickly. Complex carbohydrates like potatoes, sweet potatoes, heavier grains, those are used slower, and the body can handle those quickly. Those things actually come from nature. The body was really never meant to work with refined sugar. It just doesn't have the machinery for that. It can't stop itself from absorbing all this sugar. So what happens when you eat plain sugar or just a lot of sugar? Well, the body wants to absorb it. It wants the energy, and it will absorb the sugar because it wants the energy. But what happens there is your blood sugar goes so high, the body has to dump lots of insulin in there to get it out of the blood sugar so you don't go into a diabetic coma. And if you do that long enough, over and over and over, you're going to cause the body to go into insulin resistance. And the body then, all the blood vessels are inflamed. And if the body can't get this inflammation under control, it will put cholesterol in these arteries and veins to stop the inflammation. But the cause is sugar, not the cholesterol. That's what this is all this cholesterol nonsense is so wrong. Cholesterol is meant to be protective. It does have problems if you keep doing it over and over and over. You have a scar, a plaque, and that can break loose and cause a stroke or heart attack. But that's not the cause. The cause is the sugar. So anyway, the problem also with simple sugar, since it's absorbed so quickly, the body has to raise the insulin so quickly to get a hold of that, to get it under control. Insulin puts sugars into storage, makes it go into fat storage. And that's why we gain a lot of body fat from eating sugar. Now, if you eat fats as an energy source, this is going towards more of a keto diet. You've probably heard the word keto, just meaning ketogenic. You're trying to produce ketone bodies by the burning of fat, getting away from the burning of simple sugars and sugars. The body much rather would use a fat as an energy source. It burns slower, it burns more complete, it burns easier. The body has lots of more minerals or vitamins with the fats and oils than simple sugars. So fat is a lot better source of energy for us, but we have to get used to it. The body has a hard time switching from refined sugars to fat right away. That's why people who try a ketogenic diet without some kind of supervision or support usually fall off the wagon. Atkins did a lot of work with that even back in the 1980s and 90s, and even before. And it's what people, had used that in our office, and people just couldn't handle the transition. Their livers would have all kind of problems, kidneys would have problems. They're already so toxic from all the standard American diet fare that their bodies just can't handle ketosis. So that's why it's important to have supervision. And that's what we do in this office, is that we help patients go from the standard American diet, the SAD diet, to or towards a more ketogenic diet. Now, we work with a lot of vegetables and things too to detox the body, but we're always working towards the ketogenic diet more, as much as that body can handle. And again, it's a long-term work sometimes to get the body from being a glucose burning thing to a ketogenic body, or a ketone producing fat burning body. But there's a continuum there, and you have to work with that body through that. You can't just go from one to the other. Some people do it, get by with it, but a lot of people can't, and it really causes them trouble. And then they just go, well, I tried that diet, it doesn't work for me. Well, that's because you didn't know how to do it right. So that gives some good information. Another point that I want to point out, another big point I want to put out there, is that back to this cholesterol thing, a simple logical question to ask is, what does a statin drug do? Statin drugs work by stopping the liver to have the ability to produce cholesterol. Now, do you think the liver will just make cholesterol for no reason? It just has no reason. It just decides, well, let's just make cholesterol all the time and overrun the body with cholesterol, make that cholesterol number go way high, 300, big deal. But anyway, so that question is never asked by the medics. It's just that if you have a higher cholesterol number, total being over 200 now, even 180, they want to put you on a statin drug so it stops the liver producing cholesterol. That's just nonsense. You're not even looking at why that's there in the first place. And the reason the body's making cholesterol is to help for many things in the body. Your brain is 60 to 80% cholesterol by weight. But for many things that's going on, it's a stress. It's trying to protect the body from stress. And especially in the blood vessel system. That's why, because of the high insulin spikes from all this sugar, this body is protecting itself with cholesterol. Now, again, over and over and over and over, and the blood vessel becomes scarred, whatever, this plaquing happens, that is a problem. I understand that, but stopping the liver from producing cholesterol is a really, really wrong way of handling. It lends towards Alzheimer's, it lends towards all kind of brain problems and nerve issues, which, a lot of people know that, and you're seeing that. And if you go to drugs.com and put in any statin drug, you just see a whole list of side effects. And it's an awful thing that we're trying to get people to learn about in our office, to get away from that kind of model. So anyway, probably enough rambling about that. So again, the sugar has, has 4 kilograms of energy per gram, and fat has 9. So fat is definitely a better energy source. The body just has to be able to use it. Another problem we find with people too is that their livers are so toxic. They just don't have the ability to digest, emulsify, it's called, and absorb fats. And so almost everyone that sucks down sugar can absorb the sugar. And actually, in a refined sugar state, it acts like a drug and causes a high dopamine response, which makes you addicted to it, and the manufacturers love that. But to forget people to digest fats and proteins, it takes time for us, a lot of times, to get people to be able to do that. They've been eating this junk for so long, their bodies haven't been able to digest anything. That's what makes you age a lot faster. And you're not really digesting anything. You're just absorbing energy from these refined carbohydrates, or carbohydrates, and you keep on going, but then you're just aging a lot faster. So it's really important to know the difference. And we're going to talk more about this energy thing as time goes on, not only with digestion and energy production with mitochondria and ATP, but how the body uses this for brain function and all kinds of things. Talking about more of that as the month goes on these Monday night health shops. I kind of get into this so quick. I forgot to give you a little introduction here, that anybody who is not familiar with myself, Dr. Mark Holschlag here at Natural Health. I've been in the office now, we're going on 38 years coming up in March. I've been doing nutrition and chiropractic for this whole time. We use Center Process Nutrition, a whole food nutrition company, and MediHerb, and some other lines too that are whole foods. And we use activator adjusting to do our chiropractic work. I've been brought in my one son now. Brought in two sons actually, that my twins. One of them is a doctor of chiropractic, Dr. Chip, and then Eddie is an energy coach. Now he's going to talk more on what he does next week. And energy coach, what is that? Well, stay tuned. We'll talk a lot more about that next week. But again, we're kind of getting our mind set as to what is energy and how does this body work with all this energy. People are hung up on the material side, but they just don't even think about energy. And the medical field has really done not a very good job of educating people about the energy of the body. They've done a lot about, they look at a lot of the materialistic or the mechanistic parts of the body, and their whole treatment courses are broken into different parts of the robot, like this. You know, one's a bone doctor, and one's a heart doctor, and one's a brain doctor, and one's a kidney doctor. But we don't want to break it apart. The body is a whole, and you have to treat it as a whole, and you have to heal it as a whole. And that's, again, what we do here at Natural Health. So we'll go ahead and run into our other handouts now and talk more about what we do in the office, too, to help patients with this. So we have our high-tech presentation board here, and we're looking at a microcosm of the body in our triangle. And the three corners of the triangle are nutrition, deficiency, organ dysfunction, and disease. And we're talking really about any degenerative disease that we have. And so any degenerative diseases, you know, for example, would be, you know, cardiovascular problems. Heart disease is a degenerative disease of the cardiovascular system. Diabetes is a degenerative disease of the sugar handling system, energy systems of the body. Cancer is a degenerative disease of the immune system. So just any degenerative disease is what's going on here as we have nutrition deficiency and more organ dysfunction. We want to try to break that up. So a couple of handouts we have now. You're always welcome to come to these personally in the office. We do these at 6 o'clock on Monday nights. We'll do them every Monday night throughout this year, 2020. And they'll be also on YouTube and Brighteon.com afterwards. But right now we're doing these live on Instagram and Facebook. But the myths and truths about nutrition, these are just some of the things that, again, just like this cholesterol thing, things we've heard about in the past, but, you know, what's it mean, or what is it? Is it actually true or not? So I could read a few of these. The myth that vegetarianism is healthy. The truth is the annual all-cause death rate of vegetarian men is slightly more than the non-vegetarian men, and the annual death rate of vegetarian women is significantly more than that of non-vegetarian women. Now, the idea there is when we're in our office, when we're going from the SAD diet, the Standard American diet, and we want to try to help people start to detox, we put them on more of a vegetarian diet. And the vegetarian diet is a very good detox diet. It's got a lot of fiber there, a lot of good minerals, a lot of good actually water in the vegetables that help to clean the body out, and it works very good. The problem is we have essential amino acids and essential fatty acids that have to come from our diet, and these proteins and fats are hard to get in vegetables. Now, there are people who can do vegetarianism successfully, but they have to really know what they're doing, and most people don't have the time to mess with it and don't get it done right. Like the people who did Atkins and just ate 5 pounds of bacon and try to get by with that. Well, that doesn't work right either. So you have to know what you're doing with these diets and help and work in this continuum, get the body detox, digesting, and absorbing these nutritions and these foods that we have. So, and the reason too that is a little different in women is because women need more of the oils and fats for the hormones that they produce. So they're really more needing the essential fatty acids that come from the diet even than men. Another one here, to avoid heart disease, we should use margarine instead of butter. And the actual truth is margarine users have twice the rate of heart disease as butter eaters. And most people don't understand that they need to go into the history of margarine, to the history of these seed oils, and how they basically started out as machine oils, and they were brought in, again, with this cholesterol scare and all this kind of stuff to replace butter, which was actually a good food. You just don't want to put it on your cinnamon roll and have it in the morning. It's the combination of the oils and the carbs, refined starches, that cause trouble too. That's a whole nother night. But anyway, margarine is about 2-3 steps away from plastic. It really wasn't meant to be in the body at all, and so it definitely causes problems there. The last one here, beef causes colon cancer, is the myth. The truth is, Argentina with higher beef consumption has lower rates of colon cancer than U.S. Mormons, which have a lower rate of colon cancer than the vegetarian Seventh-day Adventists. So the problem is, it's not the meat. And like we talked about before, it's usually the digestion. The people have problem with digesting these heavy proteins and heavy fats. And so if you get it in there and don't know how to digest it and keep it moving through, it can be a problem. And so it's not, though, that's the underlying cause. It's the body's problem with nutrition that causes, and digestion, that causes them to really have the cancer anyway. So it's not the meat, but it's the person themselves. And this goes right along with the looking at the immune system in the body that people aren't looking at either. So that's another topic we're going to talk a lot about. Our health, what exactly is the problem? So I'd like to read the first couple paragraphs here. We have drifted into this deplorable position of national malnutrition quite inadvertently. It is a result of scientific research with the objective of finding the best ways to create foods that are non-perishable, that can be made by mass production methods in central factories and distributed so cheaply that they can sweep all local competition from the market. Then, after develops a suspicion that these quote-unquote foods are inadequate to support life, modern advertising steps in to propagandize the people into believing there's nothing wrong with them. That they are products of scientific research intended to produce a food that is the last word in terms of value, and the confused public is totally unable to arrive at any conclusion of fact, and continues to blindly buy the rubbish that is killing them off years ahead of their time. This is written by Dr. Royal Lee about 90 years ago. And this was before all the fast food chains, the donut chains, the ice cream chains. This is just, it started out because of the introduction of white flour and white sugar. And so, this is happening way back. And this was basically, he started looking into this. He was an engineer, Dr. Lee, and he became a dentist to understand why the kids were having all these teeth cavities, these teeth caries. And Dr. Lee is also the inventor of standard process nutrition line that we carry, the whole food nutrition line we carry. He's basically a genius, and of course, he's never been acknowledged as this. He will someday, but not right now. So, good information there. If you come to one of our classes, we had patients, or they have our audience fill out a little sugar quiz. And this is talking about getting an idea of how much sugar you get every day and when you get it and what you do about it. And it has a grading scale at the bottom, which is really interesting. The big take-home point here is that sugar is addictive. Especially we're talking about processed, refined sugars here. It acts, again, as a drug in the body. And it produces a dopamine response, so the body feels great on refined sugar, and of course you're basically digging your own grave with your teeth over time, but you feel great then. And so sugar is as addictive as alcohol, or even more addictive than cocaine. I mean, it works as a drug, refined sugars here. There's also a list of the 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. Basically, just a list of all the degenerative diseases that mankind suffers from. And in sugar's many disguises, we're up to, I think, 71 different names now for sugar. Things like dextrose and beet sugar, and I had a gal today talking about how coconut sugar should be fine. No, anything taken out of the food context and made of that little sweet stuff is refined sugar from whatever source. The manufacturers love to use some kind of special name making it sound good, but it's still refined sugar. The three tastes, the body has a taste for sugar, salt, and fats, and so the manufacturers know how to use that against us. If they're trying to produce a food that gets you addicted to that food, it's going to be either high in sugar, salt, or fat, a combination of those. So you just kind of think of your favorite foods, like M&Ms, for example. Lots of sugar there. If you're talking about Cheetos, well, there's a lot of fats and salt. Corn chips. I mean, any of these things are just combinations to get you hooked, get your body just loving that food. Get you back. There's a great video. If you go to YouTube and go and put in "Is sugar toxic?" in the search engine, you'll get a 60 Minutes article. It's several years old now, but it's a really good article on sugar and how other professions know about this. The medical people know all about this, what I'm talking about tonight, but it doesn't make anybody any money. So it's a political power money game. And so Dr. Lustig, the guy that you're interviewing, he's an MD that they interview here, that has done a lot of work understanding all this, and he has his own YouTube channel, which goes into a lot more detail about sugar and how it, the biochemical way that it causes all this trouble, especially fructose, even worse than glucose. So hopefully people realize that sugar, white sugar, is half fructose and half glucose. So that's the two types of sugar. So glucose the body can handle pretty well, but just not in so much quantity without any vitamins or minerals with it. Fructose is a real problem. It's the one in fruit sugar, fructose. So you don't always want to limit your fruits there. So if I take this off and put sugar on the top, it works the same way. The more sugar we have, the more we're addicted to it, the more nutritional deficiency we have, the more organ dysfunction we have. A big negative spiral. Of course, we want to stop that, keep people away from the refined carbs, and work towards this nutritional deficiency corner. And so, how do we do that? We look at the problem here now. Now we want to figure out how can we help that. So, how we do that in our office is with a technique called nutrition response testing. Nutrition response testing is a way for us in real time to figure out what that body needs nutritionally, what problems that body's having, what organs are weak. And we can figure that out using an arm strength test. Now, I've been in practice long enough. We've tried blood tests, hair analysis, urine analysis, salivary testing, and those tests are great for finding disease processes or deficiencies in certain things, but they're not good for giving us an idea of what food a person needs, what nutritional support that person needs. Now, like for instance, in blood tests, the D3 is popular now to look at, but D3 is only one of the Ds, and it need all the other ones too. They just check D3 and then put people on high doses of synthetic D3. That's not health. That's just working and messing with blood tests. So again, we're going to look at more of a holistic approach, a holistic food approach. Then when we do our nutrition response testing, again, we're using an arm strength test to do that with. And we're going to quickly demonstrate that. I'm going to have my son, Dr. Chip, come up. He's going to help me to demonstrate the arm strength test here. So we're going to do our arm strength test. We're just going to check for strength. And yes, the arm is strong. Relax the arm. So how this works, it works on the principle of hypothermia. It's a very simple reflex, just a principle here, not voodoo, not magic. It's just a way that the body works. And how we use it, for instance, if you decide to go ice skating, and you go out on the lake and you're ice skating, you fall in, you get back out, you're trying to get back before frostbite sets in. Well, the body wants to keep the core alive. It wants to keep the brain, the heart, all the organs alive. It will sacrifice the fingers and toes, the appendages, to keep the core alive. So we just use that principle when we're doing our checking. So when we check the body, we normally have a strong arm, and then say we have a weak area, we'll just, for instance, use the heart. And I put pressure on the heart, I irritate the heart area and the dermatome, the nervous system above that. If the body thinks the heart is weak, it will pull energy from the arm to protect the heart. So if I do that and the arm goes unlocked, goes weak, we know that the heart is weak. Doesn't mean it has a disease, this means that it's weak. So then we know if we have a certain nutrition. And again, we're back to using our energy again. Energy, all things in nature have an energy. It's like how the sunlight comes through the window, that energy, or even how an MRI works, electromagnetic energy. All these things have an energy. So that energy, if we interact that energy with the body's energy, and the arm goes strong now, we know that this energy is protecting the heart, and we know that this nutrition will help that problem, that generation in the heart, that weakness in the heart. Then we can devise a protocol as we go through more of a complicated test, but figure out what does that body need to figure all this out. So good job, thank you.
Awesome,
yeah. Good. And then when we do that, we design our clinical nutrition approach for that. Again, design means it's for that person only. Clinical means it just works. So again, people look at it, well, that arm strength thing is funny, and I'm not sure I like to take kind of pills. Well, it doesn't matter, it works. So that's what we're seeing in some of this CDC research, where what's out there now is not working. That's why heart disease is worse, and cancer is worse, and diabetes is worse. We're working on things that work. We see it every day. We have a whole wall of pictures on clinical successes of people that have done so well. So what we do works, and then we're using whole food nutrition. We're just using food. You can't go wrong with food. You're just using food. So it's what the body's meant to have. It's when it was meant to be put in there, and so it's a very safe way of doing things there. So a few more handouts we have talking about what patients are saying. There are some testimonials from patients, some great stories, some patients that we've had really good success with. A handout on nutrition response testing, a little more explanation there on nutrition response testing. You have a couple lab tests in here that I thought were interesting. This one's on a spleen, where the patient's spleen was enlarged, splenomegaly, and we got them on our program. The spleen came down to normal size, and that was a mystery to the medical people. They just couldn't understand, how can the spleen get better? You just take it out. Then this is a blood test on the vitamin D levels. This patient went from a level of 29.7 to 33. So that was without even giving them any vitamin D at all. If you just got their bodies working correctly, got their healthy, got them digesting fats, fats have vitamin D in there. The bottom one here is an A1C. The A1C was an 8.0. Now it's a 6.6, headed to 5.7. I had one today who was an 11, brought it down to a 6.6 in the first test. So just amazing results we get with that. And it's just fixing the diet, just getting people to understand why certain foods work better for certain people, getting them to detox, getting them to digest. So important. If you come to one of our patient education workshops or health shops, we have a public education workshop screening form. What we do, since you're spending your time coming to our office, we do a free initial consultation exam to see if you are a nutrition patient or not. Because if you are not a nutrition patient, there's not much we can do for you. But if you are a nutritional patient, there's not much else out there that can really help you if you're a nutritional patient. You can use medications and pain relievers and things like that to cover up symptoms, but you're not really getting to the underlying cause or to health. So it's so important that we get a chance to look at what's going on. And we do that for you, the audience out there in social media land too. If you come to our office and give us the word cloverleaf, then we know that you have watched this video and kind of understand what's going on. And so we'll do a quick little exam on you too, so you can kind of see what we're up to. Because a lot of people haven't been introduced to alternative healing methods. This is one of the best. It is the best in my estimation. So a way of helping people to get healthy, truly healthy. So there's a book list here. More books if patients want, or people want more information. Websites, a lot of good information out there on websites. There's a lot of myths too, but we have a good one, especially the westonprice.org website. A great place to go to. Dr. Price was another dentist, like Dr. Lee. These guys were, again, pioneers in nutritional deficiencies because they were seeing all the teeth problems and gum problems and stuff. So anyway, lots of other websites too. There's videos on YouTube and Netflix, like Hungry for Change, Food Matters, Supersize Me, Mercury Undercover, Teeth Poison Gas, Pottinger's Cat Studies. A lot of good videos there, easy to watch and free. And then the New Childhood in America. So I put this in here because, with all the money we spend per person for our health care, actually it's disease management is what it is, and all the money on health insurance or disease management insurance out there, we should be better. Well, things are getting worse. 1 in 3 of the children are overweight, 1 in 6 has learning disabilities, 1 in 9 has asthma, 1 in 10 has ADHD, 1 in 54 males has autism, and these numbers are actually old. The new numbers are worse than this, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. So why is that? So anyway, if you look into all the politics, you'll see it's the policies that are in place. Again, back through these cholesterol things, that sugar's fine, all this kind of stuff. The food pyramid is basically a nutritional joke, but it's bought and paid for by the food manufacturers. So you just got to know these things if you want to be healthy and stay out of nursing homes, stay out of the hospital, stay out of all that kind of stuff. So, and then we are a chiropractic-based office, again, looking at a holistic approach. And of course, the spine is important to us because that is where the neurology, where the nerve energy comes from the brain, above, down, inside, out, to go to all the organs and glands. The nervous system controls every cell in the body directly or indirectly through the nerves themselves or through glands. And so important that the spinal alignment is correct, that the nerves can produce or control the body what it wants to control. And the spine is just a problem due to not only the nutritional deficiencies, because one of the first nutritional deficiencies we get is vitamin C, but has vitamin C complex, not ascorbic acid, but vitamin C complex, which helps the ligaments to stay strong. If ligaments are weakened, the spine misaligns, the discs start to dehydrate, the nerve gets impinged, we have all kind of problems there. So we want to get the spine aligned too, as well as get the nutrition correct, getting the diet correct, getting the emotional energies under control. We're going to talk more about that with Eddie. It's his realm. So get everybody working, hitting on all 8 cylinders, not just getting by on 2 and covering up the rest. So I'll go to our last high-tech presentation board here. So when patients come to our office, they usually have a list of symptoms. We basically focus on 5 major symptoms they have. A lot of people have problems with weight, and we find that if we get people healthy, if we go through our routine, and if they stay with us long enough to overcome the problems they've had for months, years, decades, a lot of times, they'll get healthy and all these symptoms just go away. So we just look at more an overall health picture here. And of course, what we're doing is safe and natural. We're just using whole foods, herbs, things that are safe. There's no medications in them. There's no, the worst thing can happen is that nothing happens, but that never happens. So people usually always get well very quickly. And the thing we have a problem with is getting them to stay with us long enough to really get well. Symptoms are the last things to show up, but first things to leave. So a lot of times people get more or pain-free. Their 5 major complaints have to go away, but they're really not healthy, and we have to educate them to understand that it takes time to really get the body healthy, to let it regrow itself. So just some things there. So safe and natural. The diet recommendations we have, just a couple little kind of finishing up here. A few books that are really good. Protein Power, written by Dan and Mary Eads, a very good book, but there's many others that are real similar. And this information, again, has been out there forever. The Schwartzbein Principle, Life Without Bread, Atkins' book, The Zone, just a number of books that basically are the same thing, the Mediterranean diet, but it's just a matter that people kind of don't know about it. Our main rules: keeping people away from refined flour and sugar, probably figured that out by now. And then try not to eat your proteins and fats at the same time as starches and carbs. A lot of reasons for that. Digestion is a lot easier if you keep those 2 separate, but also a lot of problems with insulin spiking when you eat those 2 together. We talk a lot about that in the office too. And then our basic diet program we have people work with here is very simple. We just have you eat proteins in the morning, salads for lunch, and a protein vegetable for evening. Very simple. We don't count all the grams and carbs and all that kind of stuff. We just let the body work, and as it gets healthier, everything just kind of balances out by itself. The body will tell you how much to eat or how little to eat, that kind of thing. And of course, we're helping the patients as they come in for their checks and seeing how they're doing. Now, the last sentence here that I'd like to read. Many of our eating habits have been trained into for generations. For example, Grandma was a good baker. Mom was a great baker. So every Christmas we eat 10 pounds of fudge and somehow catch the flu in January and have a history of diabetes and heart disease in our family. So the point of this is that the genetics are a part of things, but they're basically just a blueprint. And so it's the study of epigenetics, what causes the genes to be expressed. And that really is your environment. And by environment, we're talking about the stress of everyday living, what you're eating and what you're breathing, the poisons and toxins and things. All of those things are what stimulates the genes to be activated. And the genes don't really control anything. They're just a blueprint. So an example of this would be, if you're going to build a house, you have a blueprint, and you buy really good materials, straight boards, good nails, thick shingles. You build that house with those blueprints, you're going to have a great house. It'll last forever. You know, roof won't leak, those kind of things. But if you use bad materials, boards with knots in them and splits and rusty nails and thin shingles, the same blueprint, well, you're going to have a house that's going to have a roof that leaks, probably get blown over in the wind, that kind of thing. So the genes are just a blueprint, and we're kind of led to believe that they are the controllers what's going on. So if grandma had a heart problem, well, we're probably going to have one too. Nothing we can do about it, just keep eating junk, no problem. This is what it is. No, that's not true at all. That kind of thinking takes all the control of your health out of your hands, and it puts it in the doctor's hands. And that's what we need to get away from. We have the control really of all of our health issues of ourselves, but we have to take responsibility for it and really understand why and how we can change. And that's what we do at our office here, is help patients to do it. We just basically train them to understand the truth behind what their diets are supposed to be. So hopefully that was some good information that you got tonight. Make sure and like us, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channels. Really appreciate your time tonight. Again, if you would like to have a quick little exam, just come by the office, 2000 Jefferson, and just give them the word cloverleaf, and we'll get you a quick little exam. You can see what we do, and or just give us a call if you want more information, 217-228-2040. Hope you have a great evening. We'll see you next week. Thanks.